It is 17 days to the presidential election, and all eyes are on the frontliners. There is no denying that Asiwaju Bola Tinubu of the governing All Progressives Congress is the candidate to beat. The man Tinubu elicits the extreme of emotions from Nigerians and has inspired many literary works as Nigerians seek to unravel the enigma that he is. Right from his days as an activist to his short stint at the National Assembly and then his impactful 8-year rule as governor of Lagos State, Asiwaju Tinubu has proven himself as a politician who is on a class of his own. Perhaps Dr. John Ekundayo captures him best in his book titled Tinubu, Trajectory to the Throne. Dr. Ekundayo joins us to talk more on this. Good morning. Thank you for joining us on TVC Breakfast.
Thank you, Mike. Good morning.
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Right. One would like to understand, the reasoning behind this book, Trajectory to the Throne. What inspired it? Was it the dream you said your wife had? I'd like to understand what exactly, informed this.
Somebody asked me, why are you writing a book this time? But let me start, because as a researcher, while researching in Malaysia about leadership in Nigeria, the focus of my PhD thesis years back, I discovered that many of the African leaders we have, you don't find it, you don't find literatures talking about our leaders, especially online. We have some local books in Kenya, in Nigeria, in Ghana. You see, but when you are searching online, and more researchers now go to the online, they go digital. You find out little. And by the time you are a researcher, you have to compare what's happening in North America, what's happening in South America, in Europe, in Asia, Middle East, and then you bring it together. But when you get to the aspect of Africa, it's on the dark side, of leadership, according to researchers, because you have few literatures, and especially if it's around your feet, like I did servant leadership, it talk only South Africa and Ghana, like I could see online, So this really is one of the things that made me to say, okay, let me be putting something, in perspective, writing about leaders, not just about Asiwaju Bola Tinubu. I've written about the leadership style of the former governor of Lagos State, Rajiv Babatunde. I did my PhD research on his leadership style for 3 years in Malaysia. So I want to be writing like that to give focus. And this book is published on Amazon. So you have it in 3 editions. The Kindle, the e-copy, you have the paperback, you have the hardcover, so that people can access it worldwide, and you can infer from there for research study, for analysis, and the rest. And also not just talk about the person of Asiwaju, it's also about going down to what is it that is actually in his leadership approach, his leadership style, that actually interests me. It's a kind of interesting and intriguing experience to me as a researcher, not just about his personality, but about his leadership traits that we can bring out for researchers. Forget about pedestrian, puerile, sentimental arguments, which are common among politicians. They say to actually deride one another or push down one another. But what are the qualities of leadership that we can see? What are the antecedents? What are the pedigree that we can see? Right from the days he was an activist, right from the day he was a senator, right from the time he was governor, and on like that, as a kingmaker, a political, I will call him the present Nigerian Tommy Petre in the Nigerian political landscape, in my own assessment, in my own perception. So this brought about the writing of this book.
All right. Now, in the first and second chapters, you were talking about understanding leadership. You were talking also about the issue of the content and the context of leadership generally. Now, this is apart from the fact that it focuses on Asiwaju Tinubu, it's also an academic work that people should read and get to understand the nuances of leadership. Can you talk to us about the content and the context of leadership the way you have put it?
Thank you for that question. When we talk about context, it talks about where it is happening and Nigeria the context. When we look at a larger context, it's in Africa. Like I said before, in Africa, when it comes to leadership study, it's always referred to, which I don't like as a researcher, the dark side of leadership. Because you hear about Idi Amin, you hear about this, you hear about that, and some things unpalatable. You see, whereas there are some up-and-coming leaders that we can see some reflexes. They are not perfect, but then we can polish their strength and bring it out to the world and let people see. So that if in the world, somewhere, somebody needs something on strategy leadership, on situational leadership, on servant leadership, such can be possibly seen from that particular. So that's about the context. And then when we talk about the content, now, what is it that is there? It's like a content of a bottle. What is it that is inside that bottle? And when we talk about Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, looking at his antecedents, his pedigree in the office, you begin to see the strategic, sagacious steps he has taken. For me, as a researcher, I see him as a strategic leader. And what are the things that bring out a strategic leader? You can see anticipating. You can see, somebody, as a result of anticipating, challenging the process. And as a result of challenging the process, interpreting the process, and can make decision. And then align the decision to whatever is going on, and then learn from that, so that the circle continues. You can see what happened in Abeokuta before the primaries election, and the same Abeokuta again, even of recent. That talks about a strategy leader that many people are not even seeing. And when he gave that parting shot there at the campaign rally, people were like, why should Asiwaju be saying this? Even to, the political party and whatever thing. But that is a strategic leader. Is it because the word strategy is from the Greek word strategios, which means a laid out plan of the future. You see, the man knows where he's going. The man knows who the opponents are. The man knows how to tackle the opponent. So that is a strategy, a strategic leader. For me, I see him as a strategic leader, apart from any other attribute or any other approach of leadership that I may have. And that's one of the things that actually informed me writing this particular book.
What did you find most intriguing about his leadership style and approach?
I would say is the ability to foresee. Let's start from the time of Nadeko. There's a Yoruba common parlance that a warrior that is brave will know the time to hide and the time to actually expose himself. When it was, when he was getting tough on the military terrain, he had to, with other people who are in the Nadeko, had to move outside the country and be fighting, the military from outside the country. People like Wale Soyinka, many of them like that, had to go outside the country. So there were some people that died in the process. But the thing is, he could see the future. And the civilian came back. The politics came back. And then he came back also in return and then participated in the election that followed. And we can see him becoming the governor of Lagos State for 2 terms. So he's a man that could see the future. And then look at his antecedents in Lagos State, people that he had mentored, people that he had brought up, even at the national scene now, presently, they are numerous. And that, for me, I see as somebody who can foresee and see what is happening. And we need such a leader right now. Is it both for our security? Is it for the economy? Is it for political stability? We are talking about restructuring. We are talking about a gamut of things like that. I could hear one presidential candidate saying, well, coming to power, will be given a minimum wage of 100,000. I don't know where he wants to get it. You see, because the economy right now as it is, we need somebody to re-engineer, not just somebody, but a team. And Asiwaju is also good in making sure getting the best brain. And in the course of this interview, if I have my chance, I will tell my Asiwaju story, when I met him, one-on-one with other people. And, what made me to know that this man, there's something unique about him, in harnessing talents.
You can go ahead and tell the story now.
Yeah, my Asiwaju story goes thus. I remember it was after the June 14 election in Ekiti State. And I was discussing with one of my friends, a columnist in the Nation newspaper, Shegun Ayobolu. And we were talking on phone. And I was giving him, because I was present in that election as an ethnographic researcher. You see, you are among people and you are studying them and you are researching about it and they don't know. You see, and as I was giving all the insights, he now told me, he said, well, one thing is this, Dr. Ekundayo, can you speak this when you get to Bodilon, I want to get to Bodilon the weekend, and I'll be meeting Asiwaju with other people. I said, why not? Anybody that knows John Ekundayo knows that whatever I say, I can say anywhere. Okay, fine. And the day was set. And he called me. And the day when he called me, I was not even prepared. I remember that day I was wearing one Ankara with my, Abiti Aja cap like that. And he said, let's go. And when we got there, to cut a long story short, I discovered that we were just in the sitting room, the large sitting room at Bodilon. And, as many people were coming, people were increasing. But then when Asiwaju came out from the inner room, with some other people, he looked around. And one thing, he could point to people, but he noticed my own face was a kind of a strange face. I was the only person there that time as a public servant. All the other people were politicians, governors and the rest of people. So, and he said, this face, I've not met this face before. And I said, oh, I'm here at the instance of my friend, Ekundayo Bolu. He said, okay. And you see, do you know what? We got to the thing because the time was ticking. And he was coming out each time. I will attend to every one of you. Just be patient. That is his person. And as he was attending to people, we were increasing them more. And he came out again and said, you people, you are increasing. But don't worry, I will attend to you. And it was getting to around 6 p.m. And he said, you know what? All of you, come and join me on the table. And there was a big over table, that's the room. I said, oh yeah, come and eat. And the chef was asking us, what do you prefer? What do you prefer? And as we were eating, we were talking. And this is the point I'm going. As we were talking about the Ekiti election. And I raised up my hand. And I said, I have an idea. And he looked at me. Another people at the table looked at me. I remember the speaker now, not yet a speaker, then was by his side. Many people were there. Akiyambode, many other people were there. And Senator Judu was here. It's also from my home state, Ekiti State. So he looked up at me. I said, sir, in Africa, because for me, I was just coming out from research school, as a researcher. I said, it's like the leaders in Nigeria, they think for followers. They don't allow followers to think for themselves. And they think they can read the mind of the followers. They look at me. It's like, why are you saying that? I said, for Ekiti election. Was there any inquiry to find out about the followers' perception prior to that election, sir? And he confirmed to me. I did. But the gap between the contenders then in the two parties, was not really as wide. Between Fayemi and between Fayose were not really as wide. But in that election, Fayose won, and then it destabilized the whole party, and all that happened after. But what I wanted to bring out was that later on, he looked at me as we were eating on that table. He said, when you see some people from Ekiti, all these people, you think that you are meeting a rural farmer because you look at me. I don't know that you are meeting somebody who carry intelligence. So it's somebody who can read and interpret and see that. That's my Asiwaju story, that this person carries something. And then it could be useful here, and that's why we can see Dele Alake coming up, and many people, Ben Akabweze, and Igoma in Lagos cabinet, Aregbesola from Osun State, Dele Alake from Ekiti State, many people like that in the cabinet of Lagos State. And when you are in their meeting, you see how they are discussing, how they are debating, how they are dialoguing. And at times, they kill his memo. Like Fashola was saying of recent in a video. They kill his memo at times that will bring up, say, oh, we are going to do this for the state. And they will tell him, Mr. Governor, sir, you cannot do this because of this, because of this, because of that. And at the end of the day, that memo will go down. That is the kind of leader we need now. We need to get input from even ordinary Nigerians, not even ministers, not even commissioners. That's how some nations move, like Singapore, where I lived for 4 years, like Malaysia. They gather information, and you see, they gather input from the people. And from there, they process it at parliament. They process it at the ESCO meetings and see which way. Like the Naira swap we are doing now is a good policy, but you see time. The governor of Central Bank must be, it's time. So it has caused a lot of hardship, like you are talking about your grandmother. But if we had actually be able to get the perception of the people prior to this time, they will be able to get some parts there, or even meet some professional group. So getting back to my Asiwaju story, I can see this in him, that I can assemble people that have the intellect, the cerebral acumen that we need to take us out of this doldrums. We are in economy doldrums now. We are just that. I cannot be analyzing that now. Politically, people are talking about restructuring, agitation about self-determination. We need a leader that builds bridges across, who who can make a handshake from the north, south, northeast, northwest, southeast, southwest, and bring the people together. We just need that now. You see, if this country will continue after 2023.
All right. Now, the point there is, one thing Nigerians expect is that we have been here for over 60 years as an independent country. And it is expected that Nigerians or the Nigerian leaders should have had the experience to know how to, move Nigeria forward. Now, I'm coming to the issue of the context that you talked about. Some people, when they talk about the Nigerian factor, it seems things that work elsewhere very easy. It doesn't really necessarily work in Nigeria that easy. Maybe of the Nigerian context, we don't know. Is there something about Nigerian people that make things difficult for leaders to lead well in Nigeria?
Well, talking about the context, one has to grow in the system. And let me bring you back to Singapore. I stayed in that country. I studied there. I worked there. And I did mission work there. I studied there. And I resided there. And one thing we could see, that for me, I could take home from the context of leadership in Singapore, and I will bring back to Nigeria. Lee Kuan Yew grew up among the people. Initially, Singapore and Malaya were together. They were called Malaya. Then later it was Malaysia, and Singapore went separate ways. But then Lee Kuan Yew grew up among them, and it was like business as usual. But when he emerged as the prime minister, and I believe in God, a time will come like that in this country. You see, when he emerged as the prime minister, he decided it's not going to be business as usual. In fact, he changed the uniform of the party to white, PAP, white. That means zero tolerance for corruption. And then it was his uncle example as the first person when he was involved in corruption. The man was taken care of and dealt with. And everybody became afraid of him. So in this context, I'm believing that we are going to have a leader that will emerge to actually cause a change to happen and for things to work. Because in the Nigerian system is so that you have a Nigerian police going to UN mission, and we get a war there, exactly. And we do it. Nigeria will go and fight somewhere and say, oh, infantry, Nigeria is one of the best in the world. Go to Nigeria. But why? We are fighting Boko Haram, this is happening, this is happening. You see, we need a leader to show us the way. And let me tell you, Nigerians, if you can see a leader that can show you the way, they will follow. But then, most times, we see that we don't have leader to really follow, that can show us that way. So, in that wise, you find corruption. Look at this Naira swap now, whatever that's happening, even when the money are in the bank. So, it's not God-made Mayfield alone. The Nigerian problem is not Buhari alone. It's not Tinubu alone. It's not Atiku alone. It's not Peter Obi alone. You see, for me, I see Nigerian problem as a followership problem. You see, but when we see a leader who can lead us in the right way, Nigerians know one thing: they can follow, and that is it. That context can be changed.
Now, you asked a question in one of the chapters: who is afraid of Tinubu? And I'm wondering, because in recent times we have seen even the governor of Kaduna State come out to say that some elements, in the presidency are against his emergence as the president of the country and all of it. And it also brings us back to this same question: who is afraid of him? What do you see is happening? Why all of these issues, the stumbling blocks that you see?
I describe Asiwaju Bola Tinubu in my own perception. Other people may not agree. Presently, as the storming petrel of Nigerian politics, just the name intimidates some people. Just the name. And then people concoct all kinds of stories, all kinds of things about his personality. And it's enigmatic, as a person. That's matter. But you see, what I want to bring out there is that there are some people that believe that he had been a kingmaker all along, and he should just stay there as an elder statesman, as a kingmaker. You see, but the question I ask is, a kingmaker can decide to become a king politically. In the traditional setup, no. Because you have people who will be kings in ruling houses. You see, so you have kingmaker separate. You see, but in politics, it's not so. Like in Malaysia, we have this man, Dr. Mahathir, after becoming prime minister for 19 years. In fact, the day he said he was resigning, their own system different from ours, people were crying, they were weeping, because he was the foundation of modern Malaysia. You see, but later on, the man had got into 92. The people went to him and were begging when they saw their country going down economically. And the man almost said no. And the party that's supposed to come in, he couldn't come in. They had to, another, even small platform party, they joined hands. And this man came again as prime minister. So you can see that, imagine. But you see, do you know what? Even the APC, like the opposition PDP described them, I remember in 2012 when they were gathering together, and then the party was formed in 2013. There was a word used by PDP then. It was said that, this is amalgamation of strange bedfellows. And I want to refer to that. There are some fifth columnists in APC that actually they are not working for the interest of the party. You see, because when your party loses a presidential election, do you know what you have lost? You see, the opposition may be deceiving you now, but you have lost a lot of things. In fact, you have lost your voice. Because by the time, there's a change and they get there, let me tell you, the party in power, their own people too will dictate for their own president. So whatever they even promise you now, you may not even get 10% of it. You see, so the best thing is for the party in power to, and I thank God President Buhari is doing that now, to campaign for the candidate, to campaign for the party. It's because it's better for everybody in the party, whether you are fifth columnist within or you are a member, you are a true member within, to actually get your candidate in. So because at the end of the day, you can talk over issues, you can debate. So that there are fifth columnists in APC is real, because there are a lot of lines now. We have religious line, we have a regional line, tribal lines, all that have been made so sharp, which is unfortunate for a country. It's supposed to be blurred, so that we face national issue. We are not asking whether your name is John or whether your name is El-Rufai or whatever, it shouldn't be. It should be that who can do this? Who can do this for us? Like in Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew doesn't even matter whether people refer to him as Buddhist or whatever. And you have in that nation Christian, you have in that nation Muslim, you have people who are agnostic, you have people who are free thinkers, you have all kinds of religion there too. You see, but you see each religion being practiced. But then one thing, and this is a lesson for us in Nigeria, you see these people, when they leave their home, you leave your religion there. Is there, you don't even carry it to the office, even when you own the organization. Because once you are reported, the government will go at you, that you are discriminating on people based on their religion, that they are Buddhist or Hinduist or Muslim or Christian. The government will go at you. So, and you now find out the beauty of the thing, Mike. You see that somebody is bearing Psalm. I was chatting with somebody, and he's a Buddhist. Yes, I said, I was talking with Prophet somewhere in the Bible. He said, no, John, I'm not a Christian. I just love the name. You find people bearing Mary, and they are Hinduists. Yes, because they just love a particular Mary who showed them a good example, yes. And they just want to be like him.
A lot of people will argue that actually the Abrahams, the Isaiah, all of them, they were actually not Christians in the context of it. So one may argue from that perspective, they were just people who acted in certain ways, because you will find those people, their activities and whatever they do in the books of Christianity or even in the Quran, and, as the case may be in Judaism. So the point there is all that is there. But in the 11th and 12th chapter of your book, you talked about the 12 transgressions. Can you make us understand what these transgressions are about?
I know I can't start to recollect all of them now, but
just a high point of just one or two of them.
It's just a kind of like when you say satire. You see, you are saying something in a different light, whereas what you mean is something different. It's not really transgression. What is something that is hitting the opponents, of Tinubu, and they want to just attack and bring down. Hey, what is in Lagos that he has done? Hey, Lagos has been there before. You see, Lagos has been there before. Even Ahmadu Bello, in Victoria Island, Ahmadu Bello Street in Victoria Island. I've been there before. My daughter's school in Nigerian Air Force Primary School, years back, And I remember that time that the road was blocked. We can't pass that place because the place was almost sinking, you know, and until Asiwaju Bola Tinubu government came in, you know, and then decided, oh, we are going to make this place a city. And then they decided to do a kind of engineering work there that's first class, that they had to study going around. Some people had to study going around the nations of the world and come up with that master plan. And today, as we speak, the United States of America is making the largest amount of investment there to be an embassy. Yeah. That's what we are thinking about leadership, that is able to see far ahead of time. So these are some of the things I chronicle. And then in gathering together, you know, cerebral minds, you know, to govern the state of Lagos State. These are part of the transgression that, you know, I wrote as a satire.
I really would have loved to hear your wife's dream.
Well, in a nutshell, I can share it. You see, because you know, many years ago, it was not just this this time that, you know, she woke up and said she saw Asiwaju Bola Tinubu in a bruising shoe, you know, like that, and that at a particular time in this nation, she believed that she will play a prominent role in the leadership of this nation. I'll just it in a nutshell.
All right, fantastic. We'll have to leave the conversation here now, but we must thank you, Dr. John Ekundayo, for your time on the program.
Thank you, Veronica.
Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Right.
Thank you.